Are you ready? Let's go!
Don't you sometimes just want to talk about everything? You know, there's days when you can just talk about anything. Need to sit back and chat about nothing at all? Nothing But Julie, coming at you with fun and creative topics and interviews.
Did you hear Julie's podcast? She's got the greatest topics.
Come join the chat about everything, anything, and nothing. So unwind and tune in to Nothing But Julie. Great topics and cool interviews with some pretty awesome people. And now, without further delay, here's Nothing But Julie.
Well, hello everyone. This is your host, Julie Schrager. Thank you so much for joining me on the Nothing But Julie podcast. I appreciate you joining me. Let me ask you a question. This is something I've been pondering. There's a lot of people, recently, just the housing market and everything getting so expensive and COVID and everything seems to just be going to, crap lately. There's not too many people that are very happy or joyous, and it started making me think about the difference between joy and happiness. And I'm pretty good when it comes to the English language and verbiage, but this one had me thinking. I always kind of thought that joy and happiness were kind of melded together until I did some research and thought, this might make a really great podcast. So today I'm going to discuss if there is a difference between joy and happiness. And I will say, in as much as I always thought that they were the same, or in as much the same, I also believed that joy probably was a little bit more of an emotion than happiness. By that I mean it was more on the hierarchy of happiness versus just being a happy person. There was more to it, more substance to it. So let's talk about joy, and let's talk about the meaning about joy and the meaning about happiness. And I think that we can all agree that there are different things that make us happy based on, our personalities, who we are, how we see life, and what things make you happy. So for example, for me, it makes me happy to help others. So is that the same as joy? It depends on, I guess, the example. I'm trying myself to really figure out. Happiness is I think, something that happens to make you feel that way. I don't think that happiness is just because people say, oh, I'm a happy person. I think that there are certain events that make us feel happy, make us feel elated, which differs, in my opinion, to joy, which means that you're glad. So it's kind of like a little demotion from happiness. I believe that joy can be much different than happiness. So it's kind of like, what do you want most in your life? If you were to ask yourself this particular question, what do you want most in life? And some people will say to be happy. I want to achieve happiness. I want my outlook to be happy. But how come no one ever says I want to be joyful or have a joyful life or have joy in my life? That's because we're so used to probably using the word happiness. So I have to say that joy is more of an emotion of, I would say, well-being. Might be related to success. Or getting something that you have wanted to attain for a long period of time, whereas happiness is almost the state that you are in, a state of well-being at that particular moment. Are you content? Is there something that has an experience that has made you satisfied or something you found pleasurable? Now, these are somewhat dictionary definitions, but we all embark on different joys and different happinesses. Like I was saying earlier, joy is more of an emotion. It's just very simple, and it makes you or leaves you with feeling good and without anything for you to look back on or for you to anticipate. It's almost like a belief that something is going to happen in the future. So it's different than happiness, whereas happiness is also an emotion, but it usually goes along with maybe an idea or a concept, a plan, a suggestion. And what does this result in? Well, usually is something that's a little heavier on our subconscious than joy, something that's kind of weighty. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. And when we don't meet these happiness expectations, it affects us in different areas of our lives. And there's, many different ways to look at joy versus happiness and how we can achieve them both in our lives. But let's go back to, what is it that helps us become happy? What is it that helps us to become joyful? It could be multi-purposes or multifaceted, like that can make us feel this sense of feeling alive and let's say through our careers living just day by day, our purpose can shift in a completely different direction, but it still kind of keeps us aligned with our beliefs in the things that we still want to do or achieve in our lives. And that is what makes us happy, gives us a sense of profound happiness. So let's try and look at different ways that we can see happiness and joy and how they both do intertwine. And it's not always easy to figure out if this is a joyful feeling or a happy feeling. So sometimes the best thing to do is try and think of the life that you want. Remember when you were young and you had all these hopes and these dreams and you envisioned this particular future. And that future is the stability that we know we can get. It's the things that kind of bring us peace and comforting of maybe being surrounded by friends or family. And let's say you have this vision of, being in some beautiful small town, and you are surrounded by elk and deer and beautiful foliage and mountains. And let's just say that is a vision that you had, right? This is something that you have been thinking about. It's not something that you should ignore, because these particular visions can be considered more of like a journey, and that is fundamental in comprehending what you consider to be a place of happiness and how to continue having that particular vision. And it's very important for you to continue having those visions, because that is your future. That is something that you can seek out and get, and that is your happiness. And there's one way to look at joy versus happiness, which is visualizing like the end goal to this vision that you have? What is the actual goal? And once you can visualize this destination, that is joy. The end goal is joy. The happiness factor is you envisioning what you're going to do for your future and living out your dreams. That's the happiness emotion, but the joy is the end result. And they basically can go hand in hand, joy and happiness. I think that there's a lot of expectations when it comes to being happy. If someone asks you, how are you feeling? How are you? Or you bump into someone at the supermarket or you're bowling or whatever. Hey, how are you? It's just a generic question, but can you imagine if you actually answered it truthfully? What if you didn't act happy? What if you said, oh gosh, well, I've been having pain in my neck and my sciatica is acting up, and oh, I hurt myself the other day while I was, running. I mean, no one wants to hear it. They're just asking you a general question. And there's a lot of pressure that's put on you when it comes to these happiness emotions. It's like it's like you don't want to 100% know the truth, because you're never going to be happy if we don't experience or practice joy. And how can we practice joy? Well, we could be thankful for a lot of the things in our lives and be grateful, and we can be thankful and kind and appreciative, and those are ways to experience joy. And there's so many ways to go about finding a way to be gracious or grateful, for your life. And some people might get a journal. Some people might vision art. But sometimes it could be very overwhelming to think about this particular happiness. Believe it or not, when you see people that are, and I'm using air quotes, happy, maybe they're not happy, but it's a constant competitive cycle where you have to always act a certain way. And sometimes looking at the bigger picture might be able to help you instead of being completely overwhelmed with happiness and joy. Look at the small things too. I mean, those small things make you grateful. And by making you grateful, you can experience joy. And believe it or not, well, I can only assume, because this is what, I've gone through, and I know that other people have gone through this, but like people will say, if I have more money, then I'll be happy. Or, if I get my house, then I'll be happy. And the thing of it is you can't wait for you to get these things to be happy or to experience joy. You need to feel that and be that way just in general, because there are things that can happen in life unexpectedly where you don't have the money, or you can't get that house for whatever reason, or you break up with someone that you've loved for years. There's always going to be something that can sideswipe you. And things like being grateful, having gratitude, love, joy, happiness, it all intertwines with one another. And so sometimes you kind of get caught and not understanding really how you're feeling, what your emotions are about. And I have read that you can still experience joy when you're not happy. Okay, what does that mean? It makes no sense. It's very true. You can, and I guess like the best way to understand is like, I'm sure you've heard of My Happy Place. Well, I think that in order for you to still feel joy, it's through your actions, because your actions is what becomes, I would say, aligned or lined up to your specific values or behavior or standards. It's possible to find things that are hidden that can make you joy. And once you realize that your actions do play a role in being joyful or joyous, you will come to the realization that happiness is an end to your journey. If that makes sense. I'm trying to kind of reiterate my thoughts and all this, but the main point is that joy and happiness, they actually do exist together, and it helps us to live a fulfilling life. And it's really important that we understand the difference, because there might be someone that says, I'm not happy, but I'm very joyful. And people are like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm just looking for a little happiness in my life. But instead of dismantling everything that can resemble happiness, you might wind up destroying the things that you love the most without realizing it, like despair. Do you understand? It might not even be happiness that you're trying to find. It might be more of a spiritual thing. See, to me, happiness, I've felt, has always been more of like something external, not internal. It's based on, like I said earlier, on particular situations, on an event, on thoughts. It's connected to what you're so hopeful about, or let's say for a future with someone. It's linked to that. I'm going to fall in love with this guy one day, or I'm going to have kids one day, or one day I'm going to, and one day I'm going, and one day I'm going to. That is the happiness based on events and situations, like getting together with a friend that you haven't seen for a while. That's something that can make you really happy. It's external. It's something that has caused you to feel that particular emotion. And it's also mostly based on the future. It's all dependent on events and situations. And for example, let's say the holidays, when, let's just say you're not having a great holiday, well, then that can affect your happiness. It's based on situations. And then you can say, oh, I'm not happy because the party was canceled or I wasn't invited. It's a typical, inevitable result. Happiness or not being happy. So, and there are lots of people that are chronically unhappy. And what can that do? Well, it could lead to things like depression. It can put you through an emotional roller coaster. It's like that guy that you couldn't figure out. I had one of them that I was dating, and it's like 1 minute he made me so happy, and 1 minute I was so sad. It was like when he would make the time to see me, I felt so happy. And then he would be so romantic or get me something, and I would be so happy, right? But then when he wouldn't do those things, I was unhappy. And that, in relation to joy, happiness is not joy, because joy is not an external feeling. It's not something that you can buy, like happiness. It's not a behavior that just pops up due to a situation or an event. Joy is not based on things for you to exist. So when you think to yourself, oh yeah, you can have joy in certain circumstances, if you're like, Buddha, because joy is more of a mystery than happiness. That's why we very rarely use it. It's more of an internal spiritual emotion, if you can understand that. I try to say emotion, but it's not, again, I'm using air quotes. It's almost like a characteristic that you possess. I get joy from seeing other people who are joyful. And there are people who can live so frugally and just still have such joy in their lives. And you can actually turn pain into joy if you realize that that's more of an internal emotion, feeling, versus waiting for a situation to arise to make you happy. So it's a good example when you think about the situations that are making you unhappy, because joy is the only thing you can do for yourself, an internal type of thing, instead of waiting for something. If your joy can come from a deep spiritual belief. It can even come from somewhere that goes beyond that. It's mostly about accepting yourself for who you are and enjoying and loving the person that you are. That's joy. When you don't need anything other than your truth, that's joy. That's it. It's not something that you are waiting to find or waiting for. If there's, let's say, a concert coming up and I'm getting really excited to see it, that's something that makes me happy. But am I a joyful person? Yeah. I always feel grateful and always feel that there's something driving this force inside of me to just feel grateful for everything. You know, delight is more of like delight. Joy is more of a delight or a pleasure, a great feeling of pleasure. Are you always feeling like you have allowed yourself to have that feeling? I do. It's taken me a while to get there, just to have a better understanding. Do you have something in the world of delight? Something that makes you feel like you want to rejoice, or exhilaration, or glee? These are all, other synonyms for joy. Gratification, they say. Euphoria, bliss. That is a sense that you always have in your body. It's a feeling you always have. It is not based on an act or an event. So it's with that I believe that actually joy is much better and deeper than happiness, because you shouldn't have to wait for things to happen to feel happy. You should always have that feeling inside of you. It is the fundamental part of being happy. Joy leads to happiness. Joy gives you a very deep feeling of contentment, satisfaction, and it's actually something that can be born from suffering. But happiness, again, is about something you want to get in that moment. It's fleeting. So why count on it? Why be that person that only feels happy when things happen, versus giving yourself the opportunity to feel and express joy? There are ways to find joy. And I believe that if you can find joy, that can lead you into a life of just feeling so content. And the main thing is, like I said, is stop wanting to be happy. It doesn't matter what's going on around you. There are many people who can live grandiose lives and have money and have friends and family, this, that, but they might still not be happy. That's because they haven't experienced joy. So the number one thing you have to do to experience joy, bliss on tap 24/7, stop waiting to be happy. But then you should still add some happiness to your life. So how can you do that? You can dream. Dreaming can make you happy. I mean, we are all stressed out, have anxiety, we work too much, and it doesn't seem possible to get some happiness in your life. But the good news is you can always add happiness to your life. What can you do? You can make self-care a part of your routine. Do things to make yourself happy and joyous. What does that mean? Sit down and watch a series on Netflix. Eat some, which I love from Trader Joe's, dark chocolate covered graham crackers with a touch of sea salt. These are some things that you can do to help self-care. Try some yoga, some Pilates. Be present. Do something that you would love to do. Make that a part of your self-care routine. And believe it or not, joyful can also be considered a state of mind. Okay, you can feel joy if you really want to. You can relish in it. You can hold on to it. But it is a state of mind. It's something that we all should want to achieve. You mainly have to stop worrying. That, I am telling you, stop worrying. Just stop. The psychology of worrying is intense, and how the brain chemistry completely alters your way of thinking. And once you realize what you're doing, you can stop worrying. And there is a formula to happiness. It's just a pattern. And it's also part of your brain and also the inner voice. But quite literally, you can add happiness to your life. But number one, stop worrying. And it's very important, especially in today's day and age and what's going on with the world, to appreciate the smaller things in life. Because life is made up of many small things that can add up into being one big thing, no matter how insignificant it is. The best way, I think, to appreciate small things is to pay it forward. If you have read about someone doing something, well, maybe you can pay it forward, and you can do the same thing to someone else, and you can make someone's day even more happy. And then that person will have all the happy endorphins floating around their body, and then they'll pay it forward. And then maybe at some point we can have a happier world. It's extremely important to stay away from toxic, negative people and fill your life with positivity and positive people. And the thing is you don't always know that the people that you are with are negative until you start seeing it. And then sometimes you might have to switch it up. But many times your choice can be influenced by those people that are in our lives. And if you can change those people in your life and just surround yourself with positive people, it will increase your chances for joy and happiness. Laugh more. It is very important for you to laugh, even if you don't think that something is funny. What can you do? Go onto YouTube, watch a funny comedian, go onto TikTok and watch funny videos, because it really can help reduce stress, and it can strengthen your relationships, and it can bring joy and happiness into your life. And believe it or not, the final thing I have is to plan your happiness. How I have said a few times already that happiness is it's situational, it's based on events. Well, if it's true that maybe the house that I'm thinking about getting in 10 years makes me happy, how can I plan for that happiness, right? What can I do? And they say that, well, they meaning psychologists that I've read about this particular topic, all about health. It's all about your health. We do so many things nowadays to protect us as we age, to protect our money, to have 401ks. And that can make a huge difference in our quality of life, our happiness. And so The way for you to plan your happiness is to take care of yourself, better physical health, a longer life. If you stay positive, if you surround yourself with positive people, if you take care of yourself, then those plans that you have for the future that you get happy from can and will happen. There's no reason for them not to. So don't forget to find the joy that you can ascertain in your life that will stay with you, inside of you forever. And just remember that happiness is fleeting, and happiness is only something that you accumulate from thinking about something that is in your future, or from doing something that's in your future, but it doesn't last. Joy does. So find ways to bring joy in your life.